Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. If this is your first time on my channel, I am Sonia, aka Sister Philly. Welcome, and I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. So this video is going to be geared toward people who are very new to makeup. So I'm hoping to do a series on my channel, and I want to give you guys some step-by-step instruction on how to get started with makeup. So before I start sharing what I know, I just want to tell y'all that I'm not a pro makeup artist, but I am a makeup enthusiast. So a lot of what I'm going to be sharing with you today is just information that I learned along the way. I learned a lot of this information through trial and error, and I definitely learned a lot of this information from watching other people here on YouTube. So I just want to share what I know and hopefully give you some tips and suggestions on how to start with makeup. So today we're not going to do any makeup application. We're going to start at the very beginning, and we're going to discuss how you can figure out what your undertone and your skin type are, because you're definitely going to need to know what those are so that you can know what types of products you can buy. So probably the second video in this series is when we'll start learning how to apply makeup. But before we even get to that step, I think it's good to know what products to buy so that when you are ready to apply the makeup, you'll have products that are going to work with your skin. So like you can tell by the title, we're going to go over undertone and skin type today. So first, what is an undertone? Everybody has an undertone to their skin, whether you wear makeup or not. So undertones are basically the colors that sit beneath the surface of your skin that give your skin like an overall hue. And undertones are either warm, cool, or neutral. So if you have a warm undertone, you have hues of like golden and yellow colors to your skin. You probably feel like if you have a choice between gold and silver jewelry, not going by what you like the best, but going by what you think complements your skin the best, gold jewelry is probably going to complement your skin the best because it's complementing those golden and yellow or maybe like those peachy hues to your skin. If you have a cool undertone, you have hues of pinks, maybe some purples or blues to your skin, and silver jewelry is going to complement your skin better than gold jewelry. You can also go by the veins in your arm, but I feel like the vein test is kind of hard. I feel like the easiest way to determine what your skin type is to go by to use the jewelry test. But if you have like bluish or purpley looking veins in your arm, you probably have a cool undertone. And if you have like greenish looking veins in your arm, then you probably have a warm undertone. So using either the veins in your arm or going by the jewelry that you normally wear, if you feel like you can't really tell what the colors of your veins are, or if you feel like both silver and gold jewelry look equally nice on you, then you probably have a neutral undertone. And all that means is you have a balance of both warm and cool tones to your skin. So the reason you need to know what your undertone is, that's how foundations and concealers and base products are marketed, because they need to complement a specific undertone. So when you go to buy foundation, the foundation is going to have either a warm, cool, or neutral undertone. Sometimes you'll see other undertones, like for instance olive, but the three basics are warms, cools, and neutrals. So I'm trying to keep it like as basic as possible for those of you who are just starting out, for those of you who may have never even tried to buy foundation before. So if you were to buy a foundation, or let's say you were to wear a foundation that has the incorrect undertone for your skin, you're going to be able to tell, and you're going to be able to tell pretty much right away, because it's just not going to look right on your skin. So if you have a warm undertone and you pick a foundation that has a cool undertone, it's going to look kind of pinkish on your skin. Like you'll be able to see like the pink hues, and it'll make your skin look like pink or red. And if you try a neutral foundation, it's going to pull kind of grayish and kind of make your skin look a little dull. if you have a cool undertone and you try to wear a foundation that has a warm undertone to it, it's going to make your skin look very yellow. And if you try to wear a neutral undertone, it's also going to make your skin look kind of dull and grayish. Now, if you have a neutral undertone, that doesn't mean that you can wear both cool and warm undertone foundations, because your skin has a balance of both warm and cool undertones. So your foundation has to have that same balance. So if you have a neutral undertone and you try to wear a foundation that has a warm undertone, that foundation is going to have enough yellow in it, but it's not going to have enough pink. So it might look a little bit yellow on your skin. And same thing if you try to use a foundation that has a cool undertone, it's going to probably look a little more pink on your skin because it does have pink in it, but it doesn't have enough yellow to match your skin undertone. So that's why you need to know what the undertone is in the products that you're buying, because foundations and concealers, even things like setting powders, sometimes even lipsticks, they all have a certain hue to them, and they're going to match certain undertones better than others. So just in case you guys are similar to my skin type, I have a very pink undertone. I don't know if you guys can tell. If you're new to makeup, maybe you're not able to tell just by looking at someone's skin tone, but I have a very prominent pink undertone. So if you guys are in my complexion range, I do want to show you a few examples of some of the foundations that I wear. So this one here is my everyday foundation, and this is the one that I have on my skin right now. This is the Too Faced Born This Way foundation, and I am in the color Maple, right? Yeah, I'm in the color Maple. I hope you guys can see that. This foundation matches me because it has a very pink undertone to it. Another good match for me is the L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Makeup, and I am in the color C6. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this foundation line in just a minute. And then I wanted to show you guys one other foundation. This is the Fenty Beauty foundation. Now, looking at it in the camera, you guys may be thinking that this foundation might be a little light for me. This foundation actually dries down one shade darker when it sets. But I am in the color 340, just in case you want to use me as a shade reference. And I can also get away with shade 380 in this foundation. 380 is just very, very slightly too dark for me, but I could probably get away with it in the summertime if I have a tan. So those are some of the foundations that I wear, just in case you're looking for some suggestions. And I do have a couple of warm tone foundations that I wear because sometimes I'll have to mix them with other colors. So just to give you some examples, this is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation. This one is in the color Cocoa. And this one does have a very warm undertone to it. It's a little light for me, so I do have to mix it with a darker foundation that has a cool undertone, but this might be an option for you if you think that you have a warm undertone. I have one more. Oh, this one is a neutral toned foundation. Well, let me not say that. It's marketed as a warm tone. I think it has a neutral undertone. This is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Nude Water Fresh foundation, and that's what it looks like. This foundation pulls very gray on me, which is why I think it actually has a neutral undertone. But those are some examples of some foundations that you can try if you're just looking for some suggestions when you go to pick out your foundation. Now, getting back to L'Oreal True Match, there's a couple of ways that you can test out to see what your foundation is. And I will say the easiest way is probably to go to a department store and go to a makeup counter and just ask an associate to help you determine what your undertone is. That is going to be the easiest way to do it. But if you want to try it out for yourself, I do think that L'Oreal True Match is a really good foundation line to try because they make it really easy for you to see what undertone you're getting. So for instance, I am in the color C6 Soft Sable, and you can see that the bottle is coated blue. It's coated blue because this is a cool undertone. So if you were to get, let's just say you got the number 6 foundation and you got it in warm, it would be W6 for warm and it would be coated yellow. And if you got the neutral undertone in number 6, it would be coated like it's almost like an orangey brown color for neutral. But no matter what color you get, they're all color coded and it tells you right on the bottle what the undertone is. And if you happen to get the wrong one, you can always return it and try another color. Now, in addition to getting the right undertone, you also definitely want to get a shade that's going to match your complexion. So for instance, when you put your foundation on and you blend it out, so my foundation stops kind of like right here under my jawline, but you should be able to tell that it's just like blending out seamlessly down my neck because it's matching my skin color. So you definitely want to match your complexion as well as your undertone. So going back to this as an example, like I just said, it comes in C6, W6, and N6, but it also comes in different numbers, if that makes sense. So for instance, if I were to get the color C7 as opposed to C6, yes, it's going to have a cool undertone, but it's also going to be a little too dark for me because 7 is the next darkest shade. Or if I got the color C5, then that one is going to still have the cool undertone, but it's going to be a little too light for me. So again, you need to know what your undertone is, and you obviously want to make sure that you match it to your complexion as much as possible. You're going to want to take your undertone into account when you're buying your foundation and your concealer. I don't use concealers to spot conceal, but if that's something that you think you might want to do, then all you have to do is get the concealer that matches your foundation as close as possible. And that may be a little difficult to do because most of the foundation lines that you're going to see, the foundation may come in say 20 different shades, but the concealer may come in only 10 shades. But if you can find a concealer that matches the foundation like to a T, and you want to use it to spot conceal in certain places, that's what you're going to do. But most people, including myself, I use concealers for highlighting and contouring my skin. So if you look at my face right now, you should be able to tell that like the center of my face, particularly under my eyes, that area of my face is brighter than like the perimeter of my face because I used a concealer that's like a couple shades lighter than my skin tone. I actually used bronzer on my face today, but if I were to use a concealer to like contour, then I would have used a concealer that's a little darker. So my point to all of that is, if you're going to get a concealer to highlight and contour your skin, you do still want to stick with your undertone. But for your highlighting concealer, you want to get something that's 1 or 2 shades lighter than your skin tone. And then to contour, you want to get something that's 1 or 2 shades darker than your skin tone. So again, I want to show you guys a couple of examples in case you can use me as a shade reference. So I'm going to start off with my 2 favorite concealers for highlighting under my eye. This is the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer, and this is in the color NW35. And this is the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, and this one is in the color Chestnut. So these are the 2 concealers that I use the most to highlight under my eye area. Today I'm using the MAC concealer. And I'll show you one more. This is the Makeup Revolution Concealer. This one is in the color C11. So as you can see, that one is just a little too light for me. I can get away with it if I were to like set it with a slightly darker powder and all that, but just in case you're a little bit lighter than me and you think you have a cool undertone, this may be a good match for you. But these two concealers here are really good for me for highlighting my under eye area because they're nice and pink, and they're a little bit lighter than my skin tone. For contouring my skin, I usually use the NYX HD concealer, and this one is in the color Cappuccino. And then this one is another Makeup Revolution concealer, and this one is in the color C14. This one is extremely subtle on my skin. So again, if you're a little lighter than me, you might be able to use this to contour. I can use this to contour, but it's like an extremely subtle contour. But let me show you guys what these two colors look like side by side. So that's just to give you some examples of foundations and concealers that you can use if you're my complexion. I do have one concealer here that is very yellow toned. This is the Maybelline Superstay Better Skin Concealer, and this is in the color Medium Deep. I've never used this before, but I can tell just by looking at it that it's super yellow. So if you're my complexion and you think you might have a warm undertone, can you see that? Again, if you're my complexion and you think you have like a warm undertone, this might work for you. I think this is like really the only like yellow toned concealer that I have. But again, my point to all of this is that's why you need to know what your undertone is, because if you get something that's the wrong undertone, it's going to be very obvious on your skin. So now that we know all about undertones, let's move on to skin type. Your skin type is either dry, oily, combination, or normal. So they're pretty self-explanatory, but if you have dry skin, you're going to know it because your skin is just dry throughout the day. You might be using like very rich or very creamy moisturizers. You may have to re-moisturize throughout the day, and you may just always try to find ways to make your skin just look more hydrated throughout the day. If you have oily skin, whether you wear makeup or not, you're probably blotting off excess oil during the day. Your forehead and your nose particularly, but anywhere on your skin might get shiny during the day, and you'll find yourself trying to get rid of that excess shine. If you have combination skin, that just means that you have a combination of dry and oily. So a lot of people tend to have like an oily T-zone. So this right here, your forehead and the center of your face, that's your T-zone. A lot of people have an oily T-zone, but they may have like dry cheeks or something like that, or vice versa. It just means that some parts of your skin are oily and other parts of your skin are dry. And if you have normal skin, then lucky you, you don't have dry or oily skin. You just have quote unquote normal skin. So you will be able to fare pretty well with a wider range of products, let's say, because your skin is just not going to have as many issues, let's say, as someone with dry or oily skin. So getting back to picking out makeup products, particularly your base products, your foundation and your concealer, you need to know what your skin type is because those products are marketed for certain skin types. So when you pick out foundations and concealers, they're going to have certain finishes to them. They're going to have a dewy finish or a matte finish or a natural finish. Now there are some ones in between like soft matte, satin matte, but for the most part it's dewy, matte, or natural. Dewy finish foundations They are formulated to give your skin more of like a dewy, almost like a wet or like a glowy look. So people who have dry skin, they're always wanting their skin to look more hydrated, to look more glowy, and that's what a dewy finish foundation will do. So people with dry skin are going to gravitate toward dewy finish foundations. A mattifying foundation is going to help prevent your skin from producing excess oil throughout the day. And when you think about matte, just think about like photo paper. The difference between matte and glossy. Matte is going to have like absolutely no shine to it at all. So people with oily skin are going to gravitate toward matte because we already have like a whole lot of shine going on because of all of that excess oil. So we're going to want something that's going to help our skin look less shiny throughout the day. And then you're going to have foundations with natural finishes. So they're not going to give your skin a more dewy look or a more matte look. It's really not going to help alter your skin type at all. So if you're looking for, let's just say you have dry skin, you might be able to do okay with a natural finish foundation because it's not going to help your skin look any more glowy or dewy, but it's also not going to help your skin look any more dry than it already is. So if you have dry skin and you try to wear a foundation that has a matte finish, it's probably going to dry your skin out too much. Now, the only way to know for sure is just to try it and see, but for the most part, you do want to stay away from mattifying foundations if you have dry skin because your skin is already dry and it's probably not going to be able to handle it. But for instance, I'll take Fenty Beauty for instance. This foundation is marketed for people with all skin types. People who have oily skin tend to love this foundation, but I've heard a lot of people who have dry skin, they really do not like this foundation because this one has a soft matte finish. So it's not super matte, but it is mattifying. And a lot of people with dry skin think that this one is too mattifying for their dry skin. But then there are also some people out there with dry skin who do like it. So again, the only way to know for sure is to just try it. But for the most part, again, if you have dry skin, mattifying foundations may be too drying for your skin type. If you have oily skin and you go for a foundation that has a dewy finish, you may be able to work with it if you did something like really set it really well with powder, or if you wear primer and you wear like a really mattifying primer underneath a dewy foundation, you may be able to make it work. But naturally, like a dewy foundation is just going to naturally help your skin look more dewy. So again, because your natural oil production is already doing that, a dewy finish foundation may just be too dewy for your skin type. It's probably just going to make you look really like super shiny and super oily throughout the day. And then people who have either dry or oily skin, both categories should fare well with a natural finish foundation because natural finish foundations, they tend to be quite universal. They're meant to just work with every skin type, but no matter what your skin type is and no matter what the finish of the foundation is, the only way to know for sure if something is going to work for you is to just try it and see. But again, the rule of thumb, let's say, is that dewy finish foundations are geared toward people with dry skin, and matte finish foundations are geared toward people with oily skin. If you have combination skin, then you're definitely going to have to just try different foundations and see. You will see that some foundations are marketed for combination skin, but just because something is marketed a certain way, that doesn't guarantee that it's going to work for your skin type. Okay, we're basically at the end of the video, so hopefully now you have a better idea of what your undertone and what your skin type are. So what I would suggest is just to jot down what you think they are. again, to use myself as an example, I have a cool undertone and I have oily skin. So once you know what those things are about your skin, then you can start going out to look for different products to buy. So I hope that you'll continue on to the next video in this series, and we are going to talk about how to apply your base products. So in that video, I'm going to show you how I apply my foundation and my concealer, and I'm also going to show you guys how I set my foundation. I didn't go into setting powder in this video because I'm trying to keep each video in the series as specific as possible. So I will tackle setting powder in the next video. So when you go to the next video in this series, make sure that you have some products that you can test around with so that we can practice together with applying those products. So I really hope that y'all enjoyed this video. I hope that you found it helpful, and if you did, I hope that you will consider subscribing to the channel, and you can also connect with me on other social media networks. I am at @SistarPhilly on all social media, and I'm definitely very active on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter like a million times a day. So again, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye.